Good morning, everyone. We're now learning about the splitting of the sea, of the Yam Suf, and why it was necessary. Why is it in the Torah? Why did God do it? What's the point? What's the lesson that we can learn from it? Beside it being a thing that happened over 3,300 years ago, the miracle itself seemingly wasn't necessary. It wasn't necessary, at least, how do you say, politically, geographically, whatever is what it was, the humanitarily, it was totally not necessary. Why? Because first of all, the Jewish people did not have to go over the sea. In order to, if you look at any map, you'll see that to go from Egypt into the land of Israel or Canaan, wherever they called it back then, to go, you don't have to cross over any seas. Not only that, according to the Midrash, it says that the Jewish people didn't even cross over. They just went in to the river, took a left turn or a right turn. I don't think it says which way. But anyway, they went just down maybe a mile or so, however it takes to include 3 million people. So that's a couple miles. And they went down, and then they came out on, they made a U-turn. They just came out on the same side that they went in, just a little bit further down, a few miles down on the shore of that sea or river, or whatever it was. So they didn't have to go through there at all. Didn't have to go at all. And not only that, it says, well, the purpose was that so that the Egyptians would know. But the fact is that all the Egyptians got killed. They all got killed. So who knew? Who knew anything? What was going on? So why was it necessary? Why was it necessary for? I mean, nothing is necessary for God. I if you want to say it, but on the other hand, if it's in the Torah, it means that it was necessary. It had to happen. It was some sort of a part of the deal. It's like, buying a car without a steering wheel. Who says you have to have a steering wheel? You have to have, that's part of the deal. That's part of a car. You have to, the part of the creation is there has to be the Jewish people and the splitting of the sea. But why? What was the purpose? And what does it come to tell us? That maybe it did something spiritual back then, 3,000 years ago, in order to, to like the development of a child or something in the mother's womb. I'm sure there's things that happen on like the fourth day or something like that after the egg is fertilized. There was some processes that are necessary over there to in the future development of the child. The same thing with the Jewish people are just getting out of Egypt. They're just being born, so to speak, being conceived of, and so this maybe it's just it's a step. And it says no. The Torah is coming to teach us something very essential and very important right now about serving God, and that is supposed to be the main the how do you say the main thought. There's a better word for it. I can't think of it. That's supposed to be the main topic of everybody's life, right? That's supposed to be at least in the background, in the foreground of everybody's life. Just like nowadays, everybody thinks about politics and who's going to win this war and who's going to win this election and who's going to this and am I going to have money on the bread on my table? And that's what people are thinking about. In the future, people are going to think about, where does peace come from? Where does food come from? Where does success come? Where does it come from? People will worship the creator of the universe, and they'll feel the creator, that the creator is creating everything. But in order to do that, for some reason, we're going to figure out why, there has to be the Jewish people, and there had to be the splitting of the sea. Okay. So last time we talked about God making blessings in the world. God bringing down blessings in the world. Let's go back a little bit and see if we go. Here we go. Oh, this is yesterday's. It's a little bit too big here. All right, so yesterday we talked about how God makes blessings in the world. Where is this here? Oh, it's this. Yes. So it says the whole purpose of the creation, that God makes blessings in the world, and that God reveals himself in the world. When God is revealed in the world, then that's blessing, because God is the Creator, it's like when health is revealed in a human being. When the soul is revealed in a human being, the soul is flowing freely, so your eyes work and your nose works and your ears work and your stomach works, and you feel young, you feel happy. That's when your soul is working. When there's something wrong with the body and your life force can't circulate properly, then there's something wrong with the same with the person. So you can get the person is soul revealed, then the person is healthy. The same thing with the world. If you get godliness is revealed because God is enlivening the world, and God is creating the world. Everything, there's really basically nothing except for God. God is creating everything from himself, if you want to call it, from nothing. God is creating from his word, but that's creation is that's me and you, and we're really real, and we're important. And as important as we are, God is infinitely, infinitely more important. That doesn't take away from our importance. It adds to it. God is creating us. But we don't feel that. And that's sort of like being trapped in Egypt. You're trapped in Egypt, so you don't. The Jews trapped in Egypt, they thought they were slaves. They didn't know they had a purpose to bring blessing to the world or anything like that. They're just slaves. They thought their whole purpose is just to, build sphinxes or whatever they were doing and clean the floor of the master. And that's, they do that. They're happy with life. Just not getting beaten, getting a couple pieces of bread. That's happiness. That's happiness. So they don't know who they really were. Says the Rebbe, it's the same thing with us right now. There is, in fact, what's called all these hidden worlds and hidden truth and hidden life and hidden reality that we're not aware of. We're just living in our little myopic, one-dimensional world. And the fact is this much so that something like the hidden worlds are something like the sea. In the sea, everything is hidden. There's all these big octopuses and squids and diamonds, who knows what there are down there, hidden treasures and, sunken bullions, Spanish bullions, or whatever. And there's hidden. You can't see anything. You can't see it all. So there's all these hidden creations and creatures and strange things and mountains and who knows what cities are sunken cities, Atlantis, whatever this is, and they're all sunk down there and you can't see them. But they're there. The same thing is with us. There's the spiritual worlds, and all the spiritual worlds, God's kindness, God's goodness, all the angels, there's all these myriads of angels that Isaiah saw and that Ezekiel saw, and all these things are concealed from us. And concealed. If we would see them, what are we concerned with? Maybe there might be, what is it, extraterrestrial beings, planet from the planet Zorik or something. They're going to come, and that's like our big, concern. If anybody's concerned at all with anything that's concealed, so they're concerned with that. But the fact is that the good that's concealed from us. Right, all those things are bad things that are concealed from us. The corona, it's going to get us any second, and then there's the global warnings. Well, any minute it's going to hit us, and it's all these bad things are lurking in the depths. Just a big squid coming to entangle us with its tentacles, whatever it is. But those are negative, bad things because we live in a little negative, bad world. But the fact is, there's all these wonderful, good blessings that are waiting for us. Life, the source of life, the source of sight, the source of hearing, the source of harmony, the source of beauty, the source of joy. All these things are all concealed from us. And that's like all these things in the sea. And the sea is concealed. Okay. It says all the things in the sea, that's what we got up to. That's what we're up to now. So we now start to see that maybe this idea of splitting the sea is not so far away from us. 1 second, here we go. Is not so far away from us, and it's not such a bad thing. Maybe it's a really good thing. Let's split the sea. We can all see all these good things, all these good blessings and things that are waiting for us. Okay. So that's the idea of all the blessings that when we make in the Shemona Esrei, and then the religious Jewish people, they pray 3 times a day. Maybe you've seen them. They stand still, and usually their eyes are closed. They put their feet together, and they pray. They pray, and what they're praying, they're saying 18 blessings. It's really 19 blessings, but it's not important. They say 18 blessings, And these blessings are that we're requesting that God should reveal himself from the hidden to be revealed. Those are blessings. And we want God to come from, and in the holy temple, there was fire that came from heaven and devoured the sacrifices, came from above. People saw that God exists and that God is concealed from us and that God wants to be revealed. That was the whole idea of the temple. And that's what we do when we make our 18 blessing prayer called the Shmona Esrei. It's also called the Amida because we're standing. But all these blessings that we're just talking about that come from above to below, and from above to below, this is a madrigas avodas a coin. This corresponds to what the Kohanim did in the holy temple. They were the ones that actually brought the blessings down into the world. There's even a special commandment in the Torah called the blessing of the Kohanim. The Kohanim used to bless everybody. Yeah, the Kohanim, they're we're going to call it the priests. Priests is sort of a not Jewish connotation, but that's what they were. They were the Kohanim. But in the holy temple, there was also Levites. And the Levites, Mida Achiras Hayasalahem, Bum. The Levites, they served God in a different way, not to bring blessings from above to below. This is from below to above. Like we said, God's goodness, God's oneness, God's blessings are concealed from us. There's two ways to reveal these blessings. One way is that the fact that they're concealed does this. One way is to reveal them by the means of the Kohanim in the Holy Temple. They brought fire like from above to below, down. They came coming down. And the other one is the Levites. The Levites, that was a different type of a service of God. They were also in the Holy Temple. They sang. It says one of the things that we'll see what they did. That, like it says, it says the service of the Levites is who? What's it mean, who? That the Levites, they're serving God. Their stress is not so much to reveal God, but the reaction to the fact that God is concealed. What is it, the fact that God is concealed from us? What positive reaction can that elicit from us? We'll see. And the service of the Levites is shebechinas avodah, so that their service is what's called who. Who is third person. You talk about someone far away from you. There's I that's right next to me, and then you that's right in front of me, and then who that's somebody far away. Who he said, right? So that the service of the Levites is bebechinas alma diskasya. They are reacting to the fact that God is concealed, not to reveal God like the Kohanim did. They are reacting to the fact that God is concealed. Shelo yiyeh bechinas umadregas alma disgalia nira lebechinas umadregas klal. What they want is that this physical world should not get in the way. That's their whole thing. That this physical world should not disturb. The Kohanim, that's more in a way of peace, revealing from above to below. The Levites is more in a way of war. The Levites, the Kohanim are like water from above to below, kindness. They want to reveal God's kindness in the world. And the Levites, their whole thing is to reveal fire, the fire of the Jews that were not going to let this world oppose godliness, conceal. They don't want the revealed worlds to be nira lebidavar madregas chol. They want to ignore the world. But lo yatofas makom, that the world should not take up any place at all. Like it says, Ata hu Hashem levadecha. You are God alone. She'enu begetter omim, God, you are not in a category of a world at all. When we say that you are God alone, what does it mean you are God alone? We don't say you are God alone. It doesn't mean that you, God, you're above the worlds. It means there are no worlds. There's only you. All there is you. We don't see here. We see the world is getting in the way. That's a lie. That's a lie. The fact that the world conceals God. The world seems to be a separate thing from God, that I feel that I'm certain that I'm a certain separate thing from God. That's a big lie. That's not so. True, God creates this lie, and he wants this lie to exist. Why does he want it to exist? So that we'll ignore it. So that we'll ignore it. And that's a big accomplishment. That's the service of the Levites. That they are praying to the concealed God. And the fact that God is concealed, and the how do you say, disturbing fact that the world and me are the ones that are concealing God. They don't want the world to hide God at all. Not in a way of how God fills all the worlds, not how God surrounds the worlds. Their thing is to the essence of God. Therefore, their service was Bashira Ubezimra. Their thing is with singing and playing instruments, benigun. Now we're getting to the thing of the song on the sea, when they got over the sea. That's the topic of this essay. Key, because inyan and nigun, the whole idea of what is a song, what is music. Now we're talking about here holy music. We're not talking about regular worldly music, rock and roll. Excuse me. The whole idea of music, of a song, is she'en bo rak hispalos hanefesh. It's not just that you are reacting to something. It's the reaction of your soul mipnei gilui, because of the revelation of this melody. V'lo mipnei sheyesh betenua, not because that the melody is on its own some sort of intelligence or novelty. But because of just the revelation of the melody itself arouses the heart. What does this mean? We'll see, just one second. And therefore, even in an old song, yeshi soros, there is an arousal, these palos, and an excitement. What's the Rebbe saying? Music itself has an effect on the soul. Sometimes a person can sing music because of something. Something happened to him. And because of that, the music he's aroused to sing a song. Right? He's aroused to sing. Something from outside or whatever arouses the song, or even something from inside arouses his longing, and it comes out with a song. That's how the person creates the song. But here the Rebbe is saying something a little bit different. The song itself has an effect on the person. Here we're talking about the effect that the song, a melody, has on a person. Melody. A melody brings out in a person a new, emotion, a new revelation of the soul. The song arouses the soul. Even if you have an old song, you get aroused and affected just because of the melody. That's the thing of the Levites. The Levites, the reason that they sang was because the song arouses them. That the soul becomes aroused on its own, not because of any understanding. That it gives birth from its understanding. No, the Levites are the opposite. They sing because they don't understand anything. They're singing because they're not aroused. They're not motivated. The song motivates them. Because the service of the Levite is they are serving who? They are serving God, the concealed God. They're reacting to the fact that God does not inspire them. They have to, so to speak, inspire themselves, and that's the idea of the song. Like we said, God, you are God alone. The leis machshava, there's no thought that can grasp in you at all. Ella, but what? His palos reuta deliba, the arousal of the heart. We're reacting to the fact that God is concealed. Sheyeh nogea ad nefesh nakudas alev, to the inner point of the heart. Velolios bechinas makif blavad, not surrounding alone. I don't know, maybe I'll make up an example. Let's sing an example, maybe an example. Let's say a person was abandoned by his parents, or his parents, whatever it is, left him. They got killed when he was just a little baby, and somebody took him and they brought him into an orphanage, and he was brought up into the orphanage, right? And that's where he lives. And somebody says, I'm going to go see my father today. What? What's that? Well, what is this? I'm going to see. I'm going to visit my father and mother. Well, what is it? What's this? A father? What is a father? Your father? You don't have a father? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't. I'm just here. I'm in the orphanage. No, man, don't you know? Children get born. They have a father and a mother. It's really, people have a father. A father. I have a father and a mother. Oh, what is this thing like? What is it like? It's like, here, you want to come with me? Come, you can come and visit. My father's a nice guy. He comes, he says, oh, daddy. He hugs his father. Right? His father was in prison, or he was in a concentration camp, whatever. That's why he was in the orphanage. He let him out. Here's father. He kisses him and he hugs him. He says, this is my father. It's strange, he's so emotional about this guy. His father, why aren't I emotional about him? He said, well, because it's not your father. So, well, I have a father, and if I have a father, I get so emotional about that. I didn't know that. From then on, this little orphan is thinking, I've got a father somewhere in my soul. There's this thing called a connection to a father, and I don't even know who my father is. I don't know where he is, but I know that there must be something like that. A father, here I am. I saw how this kid reacted to his father, and I would like to react to that also to my father. And that longing that he has inside, that he knows he's got a father, but he doesn't know where his father is, doesn't even know what it is. He knows it must be. That arouses in him a longing. Right? And every once in a while, he sings a song. Right? He hears a song from somewhere. Right? My father, I cared about you, or something like that. And he sings the song. And he sings this song, and it arouses in him this longing for a father that doesn't even know who he is, doesn't have any idea what it is, but he knows that there is such a thing as a father. And it's a very deep, inner, essential connection. And the song, every time he sings it, it arouses it. But it's not that the song comes from because he saw his father, he loves his father, he never saw his father, he doesn't love his father. It's just because he knows there is such a thing, and in his soul deep. The same thing is the Levites. They express the fact that every Jew somehow or other knows that God exists, and he knows that God is creating everything, and he knows that God gave the Torah, he knows that God cares, but he doesn't know what it means. He doesn't know where his father is. He never felt him. And the Levites also didn't feel him. And so therefore, the song that they sing the melodies are designed to arouse their soul, this longing again, so that they don't forget it. Says that's the idea of the soul. Also, the same thing is from the inside, the nekudas alev, the inside part of the heart. And not just the surrounding level alone. Similarly, also the same thing when we pray. In our prayers, you have a prayer book. I don't know what my prayer book is. Anyway, there is the prayer books are arranged. Jewish prayers are arranged in a way it's called the ladder of Jacob, Jacob's ladder, because Jacob's ladder went up to heaven, right? So there's these rungs. So the prayers start off very sort of mundane. It's talking about, and then they get into the second stage, and those are the Psalms of King David. In the Psalms of King David, we get a little bit of the longing and the appreciation that King David had for God. And all these songs we have, the reason we say them is in order to arouse our heart, not because we're already aroused, to arouse our heart so that we'll be able to say Kriya Shema, when we say Shema Yisrael, that God is one, that we'll say it with some sort of a genuine feeling. And therefore, therefore they're called sentences of song. And they're sort of like a nigun, a zimra, they're called of song. They're sort of like a song. Shehu rak harchavas adibur. This is expanding speech. Ubira inyan, and explaining, but tosfos bir with an explanation. So we say like the Psalms of King David. Ato Hashem levadecha, you God, you are God alone. Ata sistas shamayim, shmei shamayim kol samom. That's not one of the Psalms, but when you say it, Ata Hashem levarecha, you God, you are God alone. But if you say you are God alone, you're singing to yourself, and you're singing to God. The song itself increases your emotions. It says a kol me'orer et halev. Obira inyan. This explains very well the halahiv libo in order to excite. So the song excites your heart, the nafsho, and your soul. Sheyit pa'el mizeh, that you get excited from this. Which is not the case. If you just say the sentences alone, it does not touch the essence of your heart. It's a sentence you're just saying, an intellectual thing. You're singing the Psalms of King David sang very interesting poems. This is not called a song or a melody. It is not pure service. So the Levites, they used to sing. They had instruments, and they would sing to God. Now, there was whole choirs over there, whole orchestras. There were places in the Holy Temple where they kept the instruments. Okay, now we're getting back to what we said. This is the song that the Jewish people sang on the sea. So now we're getting a little bit, now it's coming a little bit into focus over here. The Jewish people went over the sea split. What's the sea? The sea is all the concealed worlds. They all split. The Jews went into them and revealed them on the dry land. They revealed these hidden worlds here in the physical. And also when they got over to the other side, they sang to God because God is high, high. God is very, very high. Elevated, elevated. What does it mean that God is elevated, elevated? We say. What do you mean God is very elevated? Elevate, say twice, one time enough. God is very high, and we don't conceive, we don't understand what God is, and God is very high, and therefore we sing to him, like the Levites. Why do they sing to God? Because they don't understand God. Because they don't understand anything. It says they sing to God because they don't understand godliness. What does it mean? God is too high to understand, so they sing to him. What does it mean? God is high, high. What does it mean? Double high. What does that mean? Why are they singing to God? Why are they singing to God? Not because God is inspiring them, but because they feel far away from God. How far away? God is above understanding. It says not higher than that. God is above being above. The first one, that God is above understanding, that's what we call Soviet calming. God is above everything. He's before everything. The Kula Kamein, everything is like in front of God is like nothing, because God is creating everything all the time from nothing. So we're really made from nothing, and God is creating us. So God is above that. And therefore, if we're excited about ourselves, we should surely be excited about God, but we don't understand what God, like the whole metaphor that I just invented about the child in the orphanage that doesn't know what a father is. All of a sudden he realizes he has a father. That's a little bit comprehensible, right? In my metaphor that I made up, the child realizes that here he sees another child that has a father, and he doesn't know what it is, right? Doesn't know what a father is. So he has a longing for a father that doesn't know what it is. That's a little bit comprehensible. The Jewish people, they praise to God that God is not just above understanding. He's Geya al Geya. He's above being above understanding. Who is ba'atzmo? God in his essence. That what we say, that God is above understanding. It means there's things that I understand, and that God is relative to that. God is incomprehensible. God is incomprehensible. But at least it's like a step in the ladder, right? God is like the top of the ladder. We say that no, God is not that. That's true. That certainly is an aspect of God. But the essence of God, Ein Kavodo, God in his essence, Ein Sof Baruch Hu Mamish. This is Leis Machshavat Afisabe. There's no thought that can possibly grasp God at all, that you would say that God is so high, I can't grasp him. The Rebbe brings an example in the Tanya of saying, like a person saying, I just went to university and I went to mathematics. Woo, that mathematics is really some high stuff. I tried with both hands. I couldn't grab onto them, right? I brought a huge bag, a huge sack, and I climbed up on a ladder. It's higher mathematics. I climbed up on the ladder, and I had this big sack, and I tried it. I couldn't grab one idea of mathematics. You think the guy is nuts. Mathematics you don't grab with a sack, right? It's just crazy to say anything like that. He says, well, the same thing is about God. To say that God is so high, I couldn't grasp him with my mind, that's ridiculous, right? That you're talking about that you can't grasp God with your mind, that's the aspect of God which is called Soviv Kolman, how God surrounds the world, how God is before the world. But God in his essence is not in the category at all of comprehension, not even of the angels of anything. God is before all being. God doesn't exist. God creates existence. That we have no. What does that mean? That's the God that the Levites are singing to. There's no thought to grasp them at all. Bechin is the level of Atahu Hashem Lavadecha. You are God alone. Lo na'arech alav. There's no way you can compare to God's holiness. So even God's holiness is holy and separate. Below be'erech elav, and is not even the level of God which is called holiness, God's holiness. This is incomparable to the essence of God. It is not in the category of worlds at all. So don't think that God is so great. He surrounds the world. He's even greater than the world. He's greater than the angels. That's an insult to God. That's an insult to God. To say that God is greater than the world, he's greater than the angels, God is greater than the spiritual. Good, you can say those things in order to start to appreciate God a little bit. But the essence of God is not incomprehensible. It's not even the category of understanding, comprehension. Okay, why are we talking about this? Because that's the level of the Levites. So to speak, the Kohanim, they can draw down revelations of God that are higher than the world into the world. But the Levites are talking about a level of God which is not higher than the world. It's higher than being higher than the world. Ga'oi ga'ah. And that's what the Jewish people felt when they went across the sea. The sea is the hidden worlds, and God split the hidden worlds. And when they went across, the Jews went across, they said that God is above being above. Ga'oi ga'ah. Okay. Therefore, know what happened afterwards. It said, what happened? That's the beginning of the song that the Jews sang when they went across. I'm singing to God because he's high, high. Ga'oi ga'ah. And afterwards it says, Sus v'rochbo rama b'yom. That the horses and their drivers were thrown into the sea. Rama, it means Rama. Rashi says over there, Rama, like with power. God threw them. But Rama also means to elevate, lift up. He elevated them into the sea. Let's see what this means. So God split the sea, and the Jewish people are saying, God is high, elevated, elevated. I'm singing to God because he's elevated, elevated, above being above understanding. Singing to God. The horses and the drivers were thrown into the sea. Hine kasiv, it says, Ki tirkav al susecha mirkavotecha Yeshua. This is a song by Habakkuk. Habakkuk sang the song, one of the prophets. This is in the 3rd chapter of Habakkuk. You can look over there. And what happened to Habakkuk is, first of all, he says, in the beginning, he says, listen, God, why are you so severe with the Jewish people? Why did you demand so much from them? And then afterwards he said, I'm sorry, God, you're great. You're wonderful. You're helping us. You're this. He says, when you come on your horses and with your chariots of salvation. In other words, God, you help us. You're helping us all the time. I'm sorry I said anything, any sort of, had any questions about you. That's the song of Habakkuk. It says, when you ride on your horses, your chariots of salvation. In other words, God, you come and you help us win our battles, etc. Okay. Bir adavar. What's he talking about? God's horses and God's chariots. What is it? It's a nice thing, he's praising God. But what does it mean? What are God's horses? What is his chariots? The explanation is like this. The letters, Aleph, Beit, they're called horses. Why are letters, Hebrew letters, why are they called horses? Kamosha suits, just like a horse, batalagabi rochvo is negated to its rider. Right nowadays, who rides on a horse? You have to go and you go to a special place to ride on a horse. But it used to be that horses were the cars, right? They were, and in battle, even in World War One, they had horses was a big deal, right? Napoleon horses was a big thing. A horse takes a person very fast, and it's very powerful. Horses take a person where places where a person could never go. But on the other hand, the horse, even though it has so much power, the horse is negated, is surrendered to the driver, right? The driver, that's what the whole thing of a horse, that you can tame the horse, and the horse becomes sort of like part of you. It becomes your vessel, like your car, like you have a car. Then you used to have your horse. A horse is surrendered to the driver. And the driver, the rider on the horse, manhigo, the rider on the horse, he conducts the horse, he leads the horse. Ka'achine, similarly, the letters, the Hebrew letters, diburo, a speech, haim, batelim, they are negated, they are servants, lagabi seichel, to intellect. The seichel and the intellect, manigo, they direct your words, letters. L'kol asher yechvotz, whatever you want. You know. You go, whatever you think in your mind, you put out ideas, right? You want the good ideas, bad ideas. Ach, mikol makom, nevertheless, yes, that's libraries packed with all sorts of people that want to express their ideas. They put them in books. And what are the books? Letters. Mikol makom, nevertheless, yes, Yisro and Mila, there is a big advantage in a horse, in the letters. What does it say? The letters are horses. Why are the letters of horses? Because letters themselves are are just inanimate. They're much below a human being, and the human being can make the horse go wherever he wants to. Right? But it says, but there's a big advantage to a horse. Why do people even use horses? That he can take the driver, the rider, the place where a rider cannot go. So also there is an advantage, the osios adibur, in the letters of speech, that they are able, they can elevate the mind. The madriga ma'od nala, very high. Masha'in biyacholos aseichel lasig, that the mind cannot grasp on its own. It's called a sokamo shenir, like we can see clearly. Sha'al yedei adibur, the one a person speaks, yidvosef hashpas seichel b'seichel. When a person says ideas, then when he's speaking, then new ideas come into his mind. V'kachu, also inyan nefesh adam, in the soul of man. Hamadaberes, but tefillah, speaks in prayer. Hagam, even though shadibur hurak malbush, even though the speech is just a garment of his soul. Ve'ein lo erech, and it has no comparison at all in regarding the essence of the soul. She'ara mimena, that just a ray of the soul is put into the words, and the ray of he mispashetas lios seichel v'midos, just a ray, a little bit of the soul comes in to be your ideas and your emotions. But mikol makom mibechinas adibur, from your speech that you speak, nase or makif, the speech somehow or other flips around and becomes higher than the intellect that's spoken. The neshama and shemakifa mirosha vad raglo, from the head into the foot. Liot tzurura b'tzura chayim, to be bounded in the bound of life. At Hashem mamish, God really. Kamosh katuv, like it says Lakuti Amorim, mashalo haya koach, that which was not in the power of the soul. Here it goes. On its own. So sometimes when you talk an idea over, you speak it over, you start to think about it. Also, you can see there's people we can see that are excellent speakers, and when they speak, they can inflame, they can hypnotize a whole entire crowd of thousands of people in a way that even their books couldn't do. The speech coming out, the speech of letters. But also the same thing with books also. When a person writes, the letters themselves, now the letters are nothing. What are the letters? if you rearrange those letters in a different way, sometimes you can just take one word of a sentence and rearrange it, or one letter and rearrange it, and the whole meaning is totally changed. So the letters are really nothing. What are the letters? But nevertheless, the letters are like same thing like a horse. A horse doesn't understand anything. A horse can't. But if this person sits on the horse, as they can take this big professor to a place where a professor himself could never go, right? And so letters are called horses in Habakkuk is hinting at that. That's called the letters of God, and they can take a person. When we say those letters, the words of Torah, it takes us to a higher place than we could go with the words of prayer. Hine Kasiv, it says, Lo b'gevuras asusiach pots, lo b'shukei yirtzeh, rotze Hashem es yireyav. It says that God does not desire the power of a horse, and He does not desire the loins of man, or the power of man. What does God want? He wants people who fear Him, and people who fear Him. What does this mean? These letters that we just talked about, that those are the horses, they are gavuros. That's power. Right? They speak gavuros. That's power. These letters are showing the power of God. To let us know God's power. He creates the world with speech, and we can also use these words to elevate ourselves with speech. These things are very nice. Speech, talking is good. But nevertheless, they are just contractions, harbe minim shonim, and concealment. To create the worlds, elyonim v'tachtonim. Shebe'emet, really, hem gevurotov, they're just limitations of God. But everything in front of God is like nothing. Maybe that's sof kol olmot, that God looks to the end of all generations. The Korah adoros mirosh u'machshava echad bora et kol olam. So it says, what does he mean? These letters, what are the letters? These are the letters that God uses to create the world with. The same thing is the letters of speech. A person can speak, or whether we speak to God, we talk to God. The letters arouse our soul. The same thing, God is creating the world from letters. Those are the horses. Those are the letters, they create the world. It says, but nevertheless, these letters are contractions, concealments of God. What we want is the speaker himself, God himself. It says, therefore, the letters, they conceal God. It says the whole purpose, but on the other hand, God wants the world to be here. God wants the world to be here. So that's what we're going to see. That's the idea of that God took all these letters. We say that God split the sea and He threw the horses and the riders into the sea. In other words, Paro and all of those, his power that he had, that he could oppose God, he could oppose the world, to the degree that it says that the first of the 10 commandments is, I am God that took you out of Egypt. It was, so to speak, a difficult thing for God to change His creation the way that He set in the beginning of creation. He wants there should be at least the option of bad in the world. And it was a difficult thing. So it says that God took the horses, all these letters, the concealments that God has, the letters that God used to create the world, where those are the concealments, and He threw them into the sea. He returned them to their original source, which is the spiritual worlds, as we're going to talk about more, God willing tomorrow. We'll explain this tomorrow. Okay. So at least now we understand a little bit about this idea of why the sea was split. The sea is the spiritual worlds. Why the Jews sang, because singing is longing for the source of God that's higher than understanding. What's the idea of the words that they spoke, and what it means that they threw the horses and the drivers of Egypt into the sea, that he elevated these letters that created evil to their source, as we'll talk about more tomorrow. There's more to be explained. Okay, now let us go to the Dvar Malchut.